sound, that's the tone, that's the tune. That means we're back. Philanthropy and Focus, back on another Friday morning, 2 flights up from the kitchen where I get my coffee and my dog Cheeto hangs out, all the way up to the attic just below the roof of the house. That's where they stash me. That's where we do the show. Do the show live every Friday morning, doing a couple things, helping nonprofit executive leadership tell their story and amplify their message. And how do you do that? With dramatic pauses like that. Like when you pause, when you call yourself the nonprofit sector connector, it's all about the drama with Tommy D. Like that movie. Remember that show Entourage? Michelle, remember Entourage? That show used to be on HBO.
I did. I was a big fan.
I was too. Johnny Drama was funny. I am not Tommy Drama, although sometimes I've been told I'm a bit extra, little dramatic maybe, but certainly extra. And I take that as a compliment. I think people meant it mean when they said, you're a bit extra. I go, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. So every single week on this show, I do those two things. I meet with an executive leader. We help them tell their stories. We help them answer. You already heard from my friend, Michelle Blonheim, who's here from the Aprio Foundation, from the Aprio Consulting and Accounting Group. We'll talk all about it. But Michelle, before we do that, I'm going to rant for a minute or two, but I want to say to you, good morning. How are you? Hope you're well.
Good morning. Happy to be here and happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Happy Friday is right. It's funny. That was a thing back in the day that used to be like, I was like, why are we saying happy this, happy that, happy Monday, happy Tuesday? But I love when people say that now, because you know what, man, as you think about it, and maybe it's a thing, and maybe it's a sign as we get a little older and things like that. We got to celebrate everything, man. We got to celebrate all the good times. We certainly, with the tragedy goes on this planet, the tragedy that we conduct as a human race, in a lot of cases, it's we must celebrate the good all the time. So I will just send love and compassion to the entire planet and all the people and all the animals and the whole planet and anybody who needs it. We're going to be talking about that, be talking about people, planet, and then profit. Although, I took them out of order as they might be discussed in other scenarios. People, planet, profit down on the bottom. But when you're a nonprofit guy, maybe that's how you think. But I am a business guy too. So we'll talk about all that today. So what we're going to do is we're going to learn about Michelle. We're going to learn about the foundation, corporate social responsibility. I looked up a really cool article on CSR, as we like to call it, HBR article. Tell them what your acronyms are, kid. Okay. The Harvard Business Review. Yes, HBR. Has a cool article. I was watching a couple of videos this morning. I've been really taken by this space, the work that's done in the corporate social responsibility space. I'm drawn to what nonprofit leadership does. I'm drawn to changing the world, making the world a better place. My very good friend, Christine Deska of Nonprofit Sector Strategies, when we first met, was talking about social return on investment. And these are, I jotted down things like social purpose companies and B Corps. And maybe we'll get into a lot of that today, right, Michelle? I mean, this is like the vernacular. This is what's germane to this conversation. I think, to sum it up from a layman's perspective, you know what, gang? It ain't just about making money. It's about making the world a better place. It's about taking care of this one planet that we have. Although I did at 6:30 this morning watch a video on Joe Rogan of Elon continuing to talk about how we're going to populate Mars. I don't know. Not sure I don't think I have enough energy to stick around for when that's going to happen, but maybe my grandchildren will live on Mars. Anyway, that's not the point of the show, Tommy D. Get it back together. So, Michelle, look, I want to learn as much as we can today. This is an incredible topic to talk about. It is a bit of a departure from a typical episode of Philanthropy and Focus, although the foundation itself is a nonprofit organization, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
That is correct.
Right. However, from a perspective, and we'll talk about this, correct me if I'm wrong now, but much less a programmatic organization, but more of a funder. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, that's fair to say. And also I started my career in nonprofit leadership. So I'm very intimately familiar with how to run nonprofits, what it takes, so many hats that our nonprofit leaders wear.
Yep.
And then also how to connect with corporate. I mean, I transitioned to the corporate side of things, and now I lead CSR for the firm, as well as lead our foundation. But my background in nonprofit, I think, has really helped me throughout my CSR career to partner well and in meaningful ways that works for both corporate and nonprofit.
Yeah, I think again, having that unique perspective and you could see from both lenses, I think is really what you said. It's this liaise position, right? In that what's better than I've been in your seat, I know what you do. I've been in your seat, I know what you do, and I'm in right in your helping. I don't know why this is coming up for me. I'm just gonna say it, but I don't remember the movie Office Space, but there was like this job where like, well, you take the order and then you give it to the salesperson. They're like, and then they were like, well, but you can't talk to salespeople because they don't know how to talk to these people. Anyway, the point of the matter is, isn't that what we're all doing is trying to communicate with each other, right? I'm trying to communicate right now. Maybe I'm not doing such a good job,
Well,
but so
I mean, to your point, I see where you're going with this. I think like with so many things, building community partnerships and relationships require trust and really establishing a strong connection with who you are trying to work with and partner with. And I do feel like, having been on the nonprofit side, when nonprofits come to us, whether they're asking for a CSR, more of a CSR sponsorship,
Mhm.
or they're coming to us seeking for foundation funding, more in the pure philanthropy space,
Yep.
I do feel like having the background and coming from nonprofits and understanding what it takes to run the nonprofits and how important, for example, non-discretionary funds are to a nonprofit. Understanding that asking a nonprofit to put together, let's say, a volunteer program for 50 people is not something that's easily done and requires a lot of back-end work. I think that has helped me facilitate and build really strong community relationships and partnerships that are a win-win-win.
I love that.
And that's something that I always try to emphasize when I'm talking to nonprofit partners, is that we have to go in this with the win-win-win. A win for you as the nonprofit, a win for us as the firm, and a win for the community.
I love that.
And so we don't stop with just the win-win, right? It's the win-win-win. And when you are able to build such a back and forth kind of relationship with trust and respect and understanding, and I know their missions and values and goals, and they know my mission and values and goals, and what our business strategy is, and where they could help us amplify that, that's when we can get really creative on programming.
There's one word that comes, thank you for all that. There's one word that comes out of that, and I'll use it in a second, but I want to go back, if we could. I want to go back to, we're establishing, I want to establish this context of what your background has been, where you've been, what you've done in different roles at different companies, Cox and otherwise. I want to talk about that. But the thing I want to hone in on really quick before we go frontwards to go backwards really quick is the word partnership. And what I was hearing from you when you're talking about win-win-win-win, I think I added an extra win. Let's throw in an extra win. But
That's okay, sure.
The nonprofit, the firm, and the community, right? And you said, though, not only do we as the funder and this company Aprio understand what they need, they also understand what it is that you need. Now, I've been in scenarios where I have friends who are on both sides, grant makers, and then I also obviously hang out with a bunch of nonprofit folks. And there was some feedback I got from one of my friends who had said, Tommy, sometimes when a funder comes to us and puts a lot of restrictions and needs this or needs that, it becomes, lack of a better way, you'll correct me, but cost prohibitive to even take the dollars. And sometimes, it too restrictive, I guess, or too many rules to follow, right?
Sure.
That happens often, right?
Sure. Well, I think that's why. So first of all, let me back up just a moment and say that when you honed in on the building relationships word, to me, that's key. Because when I think about establishing a community partnership and really building a relationship, it is more than a one-off ask. It's more than cutting a check once a year. it's more than a transactional moment.
Where's the impact in that, right? Now, maybe a $50,000 grant, we need it for the thing, or 25 or 5 or whatever. However, if I'm hearing you right, we're talking long term. We're talking, and we'll get into the 3 Ps, right? We're talking about this being a thing that could go on, and it becomes ingrained in the culture of what maybe the corporate side does. And then this is our corporate partner. This is our nonprofit partner. We play together. We, almost where who's who, a little bit of blurriness.
Yes. And that requires time, that requires conversation, that requires listening and understanding, that requires both potential partners being open and candid about what they need and what they want and what they hope to create impact around and with. I think that sometimes, from a funder's point of view and from corporate point of view, I will tell you that I've pressed nonprofits who've come and asked for a single sponsorship and a moment in time check commitment, because that is so, again, transactional. And they're just the bare minimum of connectivity. When you really think about going and seeking funding, for example, let's say there's a nonprofit that would like to partner with my firm, I would fully expect that they would do a little bit of research.
Sure. Yeah.
Find out, do we have a social mission, which, by the way, we do. Do we have areas of focus that we're committed to, which we do? Do we prioritize, for example, volunteering? Do we prioritize leaning into our skills and our expertise and really helping nonprofits build capacity? Spoiler alert, we do. So when a nonprofit were to come and speak with me about potentially being a sponsor of an event, I would hope that they would dive deeper and go, Michelle, I know that education is one of the areas of focus that you have. Guess what? We are experts on X, Y, and Z, which could potentially help you with fulfilling, let's say, your career development goals. Or are you trying to build your career pipeline? We could help you with that. Oh, guess what else? We are doing a webinar series on this and that. We'd love to offer it up to your team members to listen and learn, just to be a resource.
Yes. Yeah.
Those are great benefits that nonprofits could also bring and share to corporate. It's not always just an ask, but it's a give and take. And also, nonprofits should know their worth.
Yes.
You're amazing and super qualified and skilled, and they have the corporate sector can learn a lot and need a lot from our nonprofit partners.
That's incredible. And I gotta mention a couple of things you hit upon there. It's so right on. And I try to say, like, enough with the hat in hand and, hey, come on, T sign at the golf outing, or, we'll put you on the step and repeat. Yes. Okay. Get it. But it's got to be a partnership, right? Yeah. I know. I have a friend who I talk about him a lot, and his firm is big on education. And an organization called Book Fairies partnered up with his firm. And for every billable hour that firm does, it puts a book in the hands of a child who needs a book. I mean, it's like kind of a no-brainer, that one, right? But it's not a no-brainer. It's second, third level conversation. It has to be thoughtful. It seems like a no-brainer hindsight. But my friend Amy Zaslansky, who founded Book Fairies, made a direct connection and saw that. So it's about doing your research when you're looking to go to a funder, which we'll talk more about. There's one quick point I want to make before we go to a quick break, and that would be I sit on the New York City Advisory Board for Best Buddies of New York, Best Buddies International, founded by Anthony Shriver Kennedy. creates friendships and relationships with on the adult level and certainly in the school level. And my family foundation, the Lindy Lou Foundation, has supported school programs of Best Buddies opening here on Long Island. And Best Buddies just had this educational diversity, equity, inclusion, but more like on, not more on the inclusion, but on the inclusion side of the IDD population. And they're bringing that out to educate employers on what that looks like for diversity in the workforce. We'll get into diversity and inclusion because I know it's one of your tenets on the website over here. So we'll talk about that. That to me, though, is what I heard you saying about what nonprofits can be partnering and giving back, that education thing. Like I think the last time they did this webinar and education series, there was like 700 people, I think, on there, if my numbers are right. And it was people, it was like not just here in the States, it was people international. And what does that turn into? That turns into a relationship. I wrote this down because some of the stuff you were saying. What I was thinking when you were talking about making it like a longer term, like a partnership, I was like, if this is important now, how important could it be when we're friends and partners and we're working together longer term? I know you have a comment on that, so comment on that and we'll go to a quick break.
I do have a comment on that. And I also would like to say that the only way to really show and articulate and do some incredible storytelling around impact is to show year over year growth, right? In year over year progress and year over year partnering. So think about that when you are coming to a corporate business or a foundation for funding. Think about going in there with the goal to deeply root so that you can start somewhere and progress year over year over year. That's how you really create partnerships, and that's how you're able to really showcase impact.
Yeah. Well, and again, to add a piece to that, that's what sustainability is it not? It's not like every 60 days we're going, oh my God, we need to get an infusion of capital from somewhere, or oh, here comes the golf outing.
Well, I will say, and I know we have to take a break, so you may need to press pause on me for a moment.
Let's press pause. You want to hold that thought. We will be right back. Write it down. Don't forget it, because I know it's going to be critically important to what we're discussing here. All right. So the show is Philanthropy and Focus. I might not have even mentioned that, but you guys know me, so you check in with me every Friday morning. And we'll be right back.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mara Brontu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 1 p.m. Eastern on Fridays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Fridays at 1 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies, from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
Tommy in his attic. I don't know if you think I'm a good singer, but somewhere in my life or childhood, I thought I was a good singer. So sometimes I sing. My friend and guest today is Michelle Blondheim, Director of Corporate Social Responsibility and the Executive Director of the Aprio Foundation. She leads Aprio's CSR strategy. We learned that in segment 1, but if you weren't here, that means corporate social responsibility. She leads this strategy there in corporate social responsibility. Philanthropy, one of my favorite words, although it's got its own fun. Philanthropy sometimes has some challenges in that word. Maybe we'll talk about that. And social impact initiatives. I looked at the website. We shared the website. If you're watching anywhere, if you're only listening, you would go to aprio.com and then you would look up their corporate citizenship angle there. There's a website directly for the foundation, right? Is that, or they get there through?
No, it's embedded in About Us.
Got it. We're sharing that.
Yeah. And I actually shared like my specific link in our chat.
Oh, you did? Okay.
So just so that if anyone's interested.
Yeah, we'll get that. I will get that out on some of the stuff while you and I are talking. So what I'd like to do is, I know you had something you wanted to say right before the break, but I feel like I really want you to tell us who you are, your story, your background too. So you decide, it's like a game show. You decide how you want to play. You could pass or play. Well, you're playing either way, but you decide which one you want to go with first, and then we'll do the second one second. How's that sound?
Okay, perfect.
All right. So tell me, do you want to tell me your background, or do you want to go ahead and finish the thought we had right before the break?
I almost feel like I need to finish this thought because it's gonna drive me crazy. And
it's your show. I told you.
That's just how my brain works.
This is your show. I'm just here.
What I was going to say when you talked about sustainability and you mentioned the stress of organizations every 6 months having to think about sustainable funding. I will tell you, and this is something that you and I talked about even as we were considering doing this podcast, that I could potentially share some trends or maybe some best practices on the funder side, like things that we're looking for. And I will tell you that one of the questions that we ask of any potential grantee is, who are you collaborating with? Because collaboration is key. You can't go it alone. It's not sustainable or scalable to anyone. So that is one of the questions that we ask. So just to your nonprofit leaders and your nonprofit audience out there, think about that when you're going to ask for funding. Have that be one of the things that you proactively share. We are the XYZ nonprofit. We focus on this. And we also partner with a lot of other nonprofits to help us achieve our mission and goals, like A, B, and C. That really speaks to sustainable programming. It speaks to being able to scale your programs. And I will also say that this is another question that we also ask is, who are some of your supporters and who are other organizations that are funding you? Why? So that you're never dependent on just one company or one business.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, companies can change course. Their goals and objectives could potentially change. And you would hate to be dependent on one funder for all of your programming needs.
Yeah.
So just kind of bear that in mind when you're thinking about asking for funding. These are some of the things that are really important to us that we ask for all of our potential funders, for all of our potential grantees. And it really does, in my opinion, lean into that question about sustainable programming, scalable programming, making sure, again, that our nonprofit partners are proactive, they're collaborative, they're seeking diverse funding sources, all those things. So anyways, when you had mentioned sustainability, I really wanted to get that out.
I'm glad you did.
Those are two nuggets that I will tell you I have shared on recent panels that I've spoken on, those are two particular things that I think nonprofits could lean in on and at least just make sure you're articulating that, sharing that information. I think it's very valuable.
Yeah, that's awesome stuff. I jotted, I put it as 3 points, but maybe I'm adding a point from segment 1 too. But like, do your homework, meaning, and I'll tell you what I meant by that. Collaborate. Who do you collaborate with? And then diverse funding sources. So really, who do you collaborate with in the marketplace, other nonprofits, et cetera, and then a diversity of where your dollars are coming from. But then to do your homework thing, and like, I'm an old sales guy, and I don't mean I'm an old guy who sells. I mean, I've been at sales for a long time, and I think in the sense of when you think about being prepared for a dialogue, prepare, you said, do your research, see who we funded in the past, see what are important initiatives that we get behind, what is our track record. In the case of Aprio, what do we actually do as a business? Well, that might be important for you to be aware of, because there's all these additional resources, volunteerism. I saw some of the pictures with the really cool teal shirts, which I don't have a teal Aprio shirt.
I'll have to get you one.
Oh, okay, if you insist. I wasn't fishing for a free t-shirt, but if there's a hoodie that comes along with the t-shirt, I'll certainly wear it. Anyway,
I'll make sure that Danny gets one to you. How about that?
Shout out to Danny D, because if Danny doesn't introduce us, and Danny, who just joined the board of the foundation, correct?
That is correct. Yeah, no, she's a community champion, that's for sure.
I love that. And that's what's important. And she had reached out to me and said a couple months, maybe it's more than a couple months at this point, and said, hey, Tommy, we're looking to get involved in the nonprofit area, in New York and surrounding areas, get more involved, I should say, and do some volunteerism. And she called me. Well, why not? I'm the nonprofit sector connector, man. So she called me, we talked about it. And then eventually I got this awesome opportunity to connect with you, Michelle. And I like this relationship we're building. There's a chance in the next couple of months I'll be down in your neck of the woods, so I would like to grab a couple.
Dunwoody.
Yes, down in Dunwoody. Shout out to Dunwoody. Shout out
Dunwoody, GA.
Yeah, shout out to our friend Robert Rosner. Shout out to Marlowe's Restaurant. Shout out to the networking group. Robert, I know you're listening. I love my friend Robert. He's a bit older than I am, and I don't think he's ever watched my program because he hasn't figured out how to watch it, but he certainly listens to it. He goes to talkradio.nyc and listens. Robert, I love you. Happy birthday, March 17th, Robert Rosner. Mick Collins checking in on Facebook. Mick, I appreciate and love you as well. All right, so take me back. Take me back to, I don't want it to be the last segment, which I want to still find out more about your background, but like, what I always ask my guests, like, what drew you to this type of work? Like, what was that journey, that path? Certainly over a Heineken Zero down at Marlowe's one day, you could tell me more of the story, but there's people listening now. Let's share it with them too.
Okay. Got it. All right. Ooh, Cliff's Notes version. All right. So, I do feel like my educational background definitely set the tone for where I'm at in my career and professional leadership. I have my master's in social work. I studied the clinical track of social work. So think about one-on-one therapies and different treatment modalities. So I did that very, very early on in my career. And what I realized very, very early on in my career is I'm really porous. Everything kind of like just seeped through me, and it was just really heavy.
That's tough to deal, because again, we're talking about people with problems, maybe people with suicidal ideations. We're talking about people experiencing homelessness. We gotta have, because when you're a compassionate or an empath, or you just freaking
I'm an empath, yes.
Yeah, like, how much can I do, man? Because I worry, I certainly worry about, oh God, another idea from the past. I worry about people who are therapists, because they take it all. I remember Dr. Melfi, when she used to talk to Soprano, would have to see her own therapist, that guy, remember?
Oh, true story. Yes.
Saying, hang out with Tommy D, you get it all. So it's those folks that are in that work, I mean, I don't know how you shut down. Well,
I couldn't, and I didn't want to. I was told by one of my practitioners that don't worry, eventually you'll become desensitized by it. And that's the way of the work. I do believe that you eventually do, or you build up fortitude for it. But what I decided to do was kind of transition a bit. So I moved from that one-on-one clinical work, and I moved to more of a community advocate role. Mm-hmm. And I was hired to work for the Miami Beach Police Department as a victim advocate. And I was doing community outreach. I was a civilian advocate embedded in the police department. So I was working within the funding of Victims of Crime Act and Violence Against Women's Act. That's when that was at the heart. I mean, I'm dating myself, like it was in the 90s, but so I did that for 4 years, and it was incredible work. And I was able to create a multidisciplinary approach from law enforcement, legal, medical, community advocacy, nonprofits. And it was important work. It was meaningful work. It was very, very heavy work.
Sure.
And after 4 years, I decided I was going to move. And if I was going to move from Miami, which is where I grew up, I was going to go to where my sister was, and she was in Atlanta. So I moved to Atlanta, and then I got a role. My first role was a director of development for a nonprofit. And again, that is just a kind of seamless transition into the nonprofit sector. I did all things development, which, as you know, is fundraising, which, as you know, is building corporate relationships and creating connections. And, as with all nonprofits, I wore a lot of hats.
Yep.
So I also helped with events, and I helped with volunteerism, and I did the grant writing, and I like all these things. I worked with our board. And then after that, I, for several years, I did that. I enjoyed it, loved it. I mean, again, you get a crash course on all things nonprofit when you are able to do development work like that and work with the ED and the board. And then I took my first role in corporate, and I was hired as a community relations coordinator. And there was no program. So I was able to build the program, establish the approach, the strategy, define what it was that we were going to do and how we were going to get involved and what was that involvement going to look like. And I grew a team, and I moved up and up and up. And then I expanded from one division to 3 divisions, and then moved up to enterprise. And anyways, I've been in the CSR space now for a long time. And it's been an absolute privilege. I will say that I think my background, it affords me an opportunity to every day lean into my social worker's heart.
Yes.
But really use my business brain and it's the intersection of corporate and community that I just love. And I've been in the CSR profession long enough to have experienced it really becoming this formalized, highly strategic, moving from something that was a nice to have.
Right? Yeah.
15 years ago to something that is an imperative, something that is baked into business goals and objectives. CSR is such a strong cultural component to business practices. Everything from recruitment and retention to employee volunteerism to aligning, and if CSR isn't aligning with their diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging,
Yep.
then I highly encourage people to do that. I'm sure they are, but it's become such a cornerstone component to culture and business that if a company doesn't have a CSR approach or philosophy or program, I highly encourage that they start somewhere. And you don't need to have a $10 million budget to do it. You can start small and build incrementally, but it is absolutely a must-have.
Yeah. We do have to take another break, but I mean, gosh, I feel like there's those of us who are in this type of work realize the importance of it. The other thing that pops, I think you've been here long enough on the program to see things pop in my head, and I just have to say them. But I remember, so I was born in 1978, just the cusp, right? Like of that new generation, or which is not really a new generation anymore, right? But they say the millennials. Now millennials are people who have children in high school, gang, just a heads up. They're not everybody's sleeping on their parents' couch in the basement eating Cheetos, gang. Okay. These are adult human beings.
I'm Gen X though.
So am I though. So am I, but the thing is though, I think people think millennials are like 19 years old right now,
Right.
Like the thing they're not. They're probably, half of them are divorced already, gang. So like, let's just be real. But what you're talking about is this being a cornerstone to culture. I remember everybody's like, well, it's because the millennials are all about the planet and all about people, and they want to know in the interview, the corporate social. It isn't just them, folks. It's all of us who want to know, what are you doing, company? It's great. You have this total comp. You're paying me a salary. You're paying into my benefits, maybe, right, et cetera, et cetera. But what else are you doing? How are you being a good corporate citizen? We do have to go to a break. But tell me what I feel like you're ready to jump at something what I just said, and then we'll go to a quick break.
I was going to say, well, if you were to really like peel back the onion and say, what is CSR? That's really how a company contributes to the communities where they live and work, and to society as a whole, right? So that's just a super basic definition, but that just as a starting point.
Yeah.
To me, if you are looking at 3 different accounting firms, let's just say, and you need someone to do your taxes, and you can go to A, and you can go to B, and you can go to C, and they're pretty much all going to do your taxes the same. What are the differentiating factors? What is it that's going to make you, as a consumer, as a citizen within your community, choose one over the other? And the data, all the data, so much data, and the research all prove that when you have similar options, you are going to lean into the one that you can connect with personally and that values aligns with you.
So I want to leave this, we're going to go to a quick break, but here's gang, if you're business people, even if, let's say, you're not so concerned about the society, you're not so concerned about the planet, you're not so concerned about
customers are.
They are. So if you're concerned about your business and your top line and your bottom line, well, maybe you better start thinking about this CSR thing. I want to define this even further when we come back. Go to a quick break. We're way over, so that's just the show. Right back.
Are you passionate about the conversation around racism? Hi, I'm Reverend Dr. TLC, host of the Dismantle Racism Show, which airs every Thursday at 11 a.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc. Join me and my amazing guests as we discuss ways to uncover, dismantle, and eradicate racism. That's Thursdays at 11 o'clock a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
In a post-COVID world, you may have many unanswered questions regarding your health. Are you looking to live a healthier lifestyle? Do you have a desire to learn more about mental health and enhance your quality of life? Or do you just want to participate in self-understanding and awareness? I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each Thursday, I will tackle these questions and work to enlighten you. Tune in every Thursday at 5 p.m. on talkradio.nyc, and I will be frank about health to advocate for all of us.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Phocus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
We are back. I am such a bad radio show host today because I am just so enthused about this topic and my guest that I am totally missing all my cues and all my marks. Sorry, Logan. Thanks for being there, my brother. All right, corporate social responsibility. Let's define it a little more. I mean, it's the idea that a business has the responsibility to the society that exists around it. That's according to sustainable business strategy, and I'm pulling that off of the Harvard Business Review. There's a lot there. There's some videos there and stuff like that. Let's talk about the triple bottom line if we could, and what that really means, Michelle, and how, from your perspective. And then I have questions. We'll probably go into another break at some point soon, and then we'll come back with the questions because I want to know. I'll tell you the truth, man. At 45 years old, like, I don't think I'll ever be a development person, air quotes, everybody who's not only listening, but I could see myself in this role. Like, this is so like right in my wheelhouse, community engagement, connection to the community, and the business brain gets to be used too. Like, how's the impact? What's the data? So give me a little definition around that. Maybe we'll sneak to a quick break again because I messed up, but go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's a fair question. And I will tell you that in the CSR universe, there are a lot of planets. So you'll hear a lot of acronyms, right? You'll hear CSR for corporate social responsibility. You'll hear community relations. You'll hear social impact. You'll hear responsible business practices. You'll hear ESG for environmental social governance. You'll hear SDGs, sustainable development goals. So, and you'll hear DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. So I just want to share with your audience that it's a lot, and it is a constantly evolving profession too. I will say, and I meant it when I said going back, I've been in there long enough to know that we've formalized and become such a part of business goals and strategies, and not just a celebratory add-on, if you will. But we're constantly learning and growing and morphing and flexing where we need to create social impact. Going back to the definitions, and again, you could go to a lot of more granular detail, but it really is how businesses take on responsibility for the communities in which they live and work, and society in general. So think about impact. Think about societal impact. Now, there are certain businesses like airlines where the environmental impact is huge, and you could see how environment would be an area of focus for them. Think about Coke, think about water. Those, you get it.
Yeah.
There are some businesses, though, that maybe like an accounting firm that doesn't have such an environmental footprint, if you will. But think about the ways in which we can create positive social impact and positive social change. So leaning into our industry expertise.
Let me pause you. Let me pause and interrupt you because I want you to underscore that, because we haven't really defined that, who Aprio is. So shout out Aprio real quick so they'll understand why we keep saying accounting firm. So talk about that. Okay,
so Aprio is an accounting and advisory firm. I mean, that's just baseline. We have so much to cover. That's just super
bottom line,
high level.
That's what it is, right? So what does that innately have that it can add to the community is the question.
So we innately have an extremely valuable skill set. Our team members are skilled with, just think again, super high level accounting, finance, audit, tax, advisory, business development, entrepreneurism, in such a way that we could lean into that industry expertise and experience and help nonprofits build capacity, help train their leadership, help provide additive programming for their clients. It's how we can lean into what we do and help us, again, be known for who we are in the community.
Yeah. So what I want to say real quick is I want to have a full segment on the back end of this. So we're going to sneak away for commercial quick, but here's what I want to just say to that is like, yeah, it's awesome getting out there and working at the soup kitchen and collecting clothes and doing the thing. But how great is it when the volunteerism that you're doing as a professional person is germane to what the heck it is your knowledge base is, right? I mean, that sounds like a home run to me.
Well, I mean, that is in our field, we often refer to that as skills-based volunteerism. And I do not want to minimize the soup kitchens, and I do not want to minimize helping cut down kudzu and plant trees, because we do that too.
Yeah, no,
so
it's great.
You know, it's finding that balance. And I think it's being flexible enough and knowing your team members well enough that you offer a variety of ways for people to get involved.
Because again, look, I'm a guy who did 60 days of service, as you all know. We're going to a break, Logan, right after this point, we go to a break. So I did the 60 days of service, right? We're now in hashtag 70 days of service. We're just at the beginning. I don't know how long it's going to take me. It's going to take me more than 70 days. I'll tell you that, because I don't do them in a row. But I will say this, some days it's painting the basement. I have an 8-year-old son who says to me, Dad, when are we doing the next thing when we paint the basement of the waterfront center in Oyster Bay? I go, baby, we just painted that thing 7 months ago. They don't need the basement painted all the time. But that's the stuff that sticks with people. So if you're into that, or if you're into the soup kitchen, but we've worked at the book fairies, do all these cool things, that's awesome. And then on top of that is, hey, here's what I'm actually like, here's my profession. Let me teach you how to do that. Or you said training and development, leadership training for the leadership of these organizations. Again,
and board work.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
board work. Yeah.
Some of my truly most significant career experiences have been through my nonprofit board work.
Of course.
I am the biggest advocate for joining a nonprofit board.
You know what? That's what we're going to talk about when we come back. I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about what you think the future of this profession or this array of professions could be, because board work is critically important, and I think some people don't know how to get involved with the board, and sometimes I don't know why they even got on the board. That's a different question. So let's talk about the importance of board work. This show is called Philanthropy and Focus. I need 3 more hours for this show today, but I don't have it. We'll be right back.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies, from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
In Focus, we're back. This is the lightning round. This is the lightning round. All right, I always wanted to be a game show host. If you don't know that, well, now you know.
Wait, I have to tell you something. This is so off topic, but you keep on going back to game shows. My husband won The Price is Right.
Stop. What did he win?
He won the whole Showcase Showdown.
The Showcase Showdown?
He kissed Bob Barker. He was in how they did the whole Bob Barker anniversary.
Yeah. Oh, he was in that?
He was in the montage because he kissed Bob Barker. God. My husband,
how long ago?
He says marrying me and having kids are like the top things in his life, and that was the third. But honestly, I don't believe him. I think winning it was.
So first of all, I mean, you see my personality. I would be battling with Bob Barker.
You and my husband would get along so great.
I'm happy to be at Marlowe's in Dunwoody. Marlowe's is not a sponsor of this show, but they're getting a whole lot of credit today. But anyway, that's what we'll have to hang out. But I would be like, Bob, listen, why don't you take an hour off? I'm going to take the microphone. We
asked him before the end of the show if he could say,
have your pets spayed and
neutered, and he did. He let him do it.
Stop it. So we have another show that I do. It's called the Professionals and Animal Lovers Show. And we have on that program, we had something called the Compassion Awards. And one of the awards that we give out is called the Bob Barker Award. And this is before Bob had passed, So, oh my God, can't wait to talk to your husband about that. That is so fun. I used to be a big Family Feud guy, Ray Combs, and the guy Richard Dawson before Ray Combs. Listen, different generation, but Richard Dawson would walk down the street, give all the women a kiss as he's walking down, give everybody lollipops, a different generation of time. God almighty, just a different world. But there was that thing about the game show host, man. What a pisser, what a fun game to have. And when I was a kid, there was this game we had. There goes the show, by the way. When I was a kid, there was this guy, Mr. Game Show, and he was this hard plastic guy, and he would I'll find it. Mick Collins, find Mr. Game Show, put it on Facebook. And it was and he would play a game, and also Guy Smiley. I used to look up the Guy Smiley on Sesame Street. This is who I've themed my life after. Ray Combs tragically took his own life, but Ray Combs, certainly Pat Sajak, who was the champion of it all. I like Jeopardy guy. What's his name? He passed away. Oh my God.
Oh yes. Oh God, I can picture him. This is what's wrong.
We'll figure it out. I'm sure Mick Collins already put it on Facebook, but so the thing is, let's get back into this because we're gone. It'll come to me. I'll Google it while you're telling stories. How about that? What do you think is? Talk about boards. Tell me about boards. Not Pat Sajak is popping around in my head, and I know that's not our answer. Jeopardy. Now it's Blossom is the host.
See, we got derailed.
We're
so
derailed.
Alex Trebek.
And he comes out and
oh, how could we forget him?
This is why it's so good that this is my show and nobody tells me about how it can go. Because this is
okay. Now I can move on to boardroom. Now I can move on.
Gang, if you didn't know, your boy's got the ADHD. I'm trying to beat it, but I got it. Someone sneezed on me. That's how I got it. All right, so let's jump into board and what is the future of CSR from your perspective? I don't know. That's loaded. From your what do you think? Where do we go from here? It's obviously important. The data shows it. So that kind of thing.
Okay, so let me just do a plug in for nonprofit board work. And I want to start by saying that I joined my first nonprofit board when I was a senior manager and an individual contributor. I didn't have a team and I wasn't senior leadership. And I just want to put that out there because when you are seeking board members, I really encourage nonprofits to go with a mindset of will over skill in some of these cases. I was so eager and so willing to do whatever it took and to be an active contributor on the board that I stayed on that board for 3 terms. I was asked to stay an extra year when we were in the heart of COVID, which of course I did. I led 3 different committees. I helped rebrand the nonprofit. I helped do a national executive search for our executive director, who's awesome. So I just want to put that out there that when you go and are looking for a nonprofit, or if you have an audience member thinking, well, I'd love to be on a nonprofit board, but I don't think I have enough experience, don't put up those barriers to yourself. Everyone comes with a great, their own background, their own experiences, their own connections. What I lacked in at the time, what I may have lacked in title, I had in enthusiasm, connections, and a willingness. So nonprofit board work is where it's at. That's all I've got to say.
I love it. Hashtag will over skill. I just put that out there. So don't get caught up in the VP of such and such gang.
Right.
There are plenty of people that are
correct.
at levels in organizations that can be a real support and boon to your organization. Really quick, if we could, something that I'm going to ask you a huge question. And I want you to sum it up in 30 seconds. Way to go, Tommy. Really, from your perspective, we've established the data points are there. This is critically important for businesses. How do you see this continuing to evolve? It's obviously has a seat at the table, but really, if you could succinctly, what do you see? The thing is, you're coming back on the show if you want to. I'd love to have you back.
I'd love to.
All right, good. So that's good. And then, so just leave us somewhere, maybe a cliffhanger for next time we meet.
Yeah, I mean, thank you. And I do feel like CSR is here to stay. Our CSR actively contributes, like you had mentioned a few times, to the bottom line. If you want to be a best business, best place to work for, you want to fly that moniker and put that out there. This is a part of your business approach, strategy, and culture. It is what your team members, existing team members want. And it's what your future workforce, what your top talent that you're trying to attract expects. So
love it. We got to leave it there. It is mission critical. Corporate social responsibility is mission critical. I said it. I have no certification to say it, but I'm saying it. Your boy, Tommy D, my friend, Michelle Blondheim, Aprio Foundation. Aprio, let's get together again. Make it a great day. Steve Fry.
I will. Bye. Thank you.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.